Our annual summer barbecue is in full swing. Attendance may exceed 50 people, and maximum capacity is approaching. Everyone seemed to be having a good time. They swam, played one or more games on the lawn, danced to music on the makeshift dance floor, or huddled around the bar. The margarita mixer hummed at an ever-changing speed as the bartender desperately tried to keep up. Demand is in the air. Some people simply drink their favorite drink while chatting with couples they haven't seen in a while. There were small children in the pool, including our two teenagers. Older teenagers court each other or lounge seductively on sun loungers by the pool. Parents look at teenage girls in bikinis behind sunglasses and think illegal things about them. Several mothers also secretly glanced at the fat young man. Nobody cares. Honestly, I think every woman, after looking at beautiful young women all day, hopes to see what her man will look like in bed that night. Let's be honest, after so many years of marriage, they don't care what happens to their husbands' and fathers' bodies, as long as it serves a purpose. I mean, there's not much they can get out of a vibrator. Of course, the look but don't touch rule applies to almost all couples. Apparently, everyone except my wife. How did I find out that my beloved wife was cheating on me? It all started a few weeks ago when I suspected that something was wrong in my marriage. Several things made me suspicious, but after 17 years with someone, you know when something is wrong. Of course, it was a big deal, and I finally understood. One afternoon, I came home and saw them playing in my bed like two big porn stars. That's when I found out. Audrey cheated on me. I mention these little things to point out things I have no idea about that make me look dumber than I really am. However, I will admit that after seeing this, I realized that there are a lot of little warning signs that I should be aware of in the future. That is, if I ever get married again. One of the little things. A few months ago, Audrey started treating me better. Our marriage reached a point of intimacy where we began to attack each other. Be sure to point out minor mistakes to your interlocutor. This is why I often leave the toilet lid open, and every time I do, she feels the need to point it out to me, even if he had to wake me up or follow me while I mowed the lawn. Personally, I think it's important to note that he stated that the washed container still had some crunchy food leftovers in places, although as you need to wake up, she be prepared to do this. Those are just the cute little things that middle-aged married people do to each other to show their love. Anyway, a few months ago, someone flipped a switch and never criticized me for anything anymore. Logically, I think I suddenly became a better lover or husband, and that's what made her change. Looking back, it's really strange. For example, she said that when I woke her up from her Sunday afternoon nap, she gently pointed to another clean, dirty frying pan that she had taken from the clothesline. "I'm sorry, Andrew. I can't believe I was so careless. I will try to do better in the future," she said as she laid her head on the pillow and went back to sleep. But what I really should have noticed was that she started suggesting that I play golf with my friends all day on the weekends. During the workday, I would go out and have drinks with my colleagues. I mean, what kind of woman would do that? From that moment on, I couldn't do anything wrong. Audrey always wanted to sleep with me. Well, about 3 to 4 times a week instead of our usual 5 minutes of sexual nirvana on a Saturday night. She also wanted to try something. For example, anal sex, which I kindly tried many years ago. He took a steak knife from the kitchen drawer and pointed it threateningly at my crotch. She didn't say anything, but I knew exactly what he meant, so I left it. Now she's starting it and seems to be enjoying it. I remember the first time I did it, I thought it should be tighter, but it was still something new, so I had no idea yet. Anyway, it's like he's a sex god or something. I suddenly became so good at sex that she talked about it a lot. Audrey started screaming dirty words and said, "Damn my big boy stud." As far as I knew, my penis was no bigger than it was on our wedding day. But his favorite phrase is, "I'm coming, oh God, I'm coming again. Damn baby, do it to me again." Another time we got hot and heavy in missionary position. When we do this, I always like to hold her legs in a wide V while I do my best impression of a muscle porn star fucking her and then hear, "Damn, my legs are pale." I could give many more examples, but you will still get the gist. Sorry, I went off topic for a while. So what should I do when faced with a terrible scene? I may be stupid, incompetent, and 15 kilos overweight, but I am not a weakling. So I did what any self-respecting man would do in such a situation. I sat on the floor and cried. I'm kidding. I didn't actually do that. I said something sensible considering my state of shock. "Are you serious? His wife is your best friend. You are crazy." Looking back, I probably would have felt better if I had collapsed on the floor and cried. At least I can win Audrey's affections. I think my comment will only inspire you. Really, what kind of man is he when he's deep inside his wife's vagina and his first words are to point out that she's doing it to her best friend's husband? Thank you, Captain, of course. Yes? I should probably shout, I'll kill you bastards! I chased them both in my 7. I have 7! Or maybe some bullshit from another man, but in my defense, what I saw surprised me. None of them spoke or tried to hide the incident. Both looked at me for a few seconds. You may also find it difficult to understand the absurdity of what I just said. Finally, they both got out of bed as if nothing had happened and began to slowly get dressed. They were not at all ashamed of their nakedness. Audrey spoke first. Jack, dear, I think it's time for you to go. Andrew and I need to talk. Laughter simply said, okay, got dressed and walked past me without even asking a question. He casually walked out of my house as if all was right in the world. I was about to say something threatening and clever, but given my failure a few minutes ago, I wisely changed my mind. Audrey started talking down to me as if I were a child. I'm sorry you saw that, honey. And that doesn't make sense. I was just distracting myself. It doesn't affect my love for you. It will end soon. Only. At the same time, he dressed casually. I don't know if he took the time to make sure I saw pink bite marks all over my chest or if he didn't know they were there. Audrey continued to speak to me slowly and soothingly as she began to remove the sheets from our old bed. She started putting them in the laundry basket like she would on a normal laundry day. Think about it. This is your typical laundry day. Interesting. All I could do was stand there with my mouth open and my eyes blinking like a 4-way stop sign. When Audrey put all the dirty sheets in the basket, she took it and walked past me into the laundry room. Come with me, my love, then we can discuss our little problem further. Surprisingly, I followed her exactly as she told me, like a lost puppy. He started listing all the logistical reasons why divorce would be bad for the whole family, but especially me. Oddly enough, Audrey's behavior was neither threatening nor demanding. She directly highlights the real impact of divorce on family members. I think he emphasized that my discretion would certainly help avoid trouble. Audrey began systematically loading the sheets into the washing machine. He added the required tablets and liquid, then adjusted the settings and started the wash cycle. Come on, he turned to me and quickly waved his hands, as if cleaning them. Everything is better now. I'm glad we get along. Then he lightly patted me on the shoulder and left. Oh, it's time for me to pick up the baby, he said as he walked away. I stood there like a statue for almost 10 minutes, but it could have been an hour. I have no idea. I've heard that when a person is in shock, he does what he knows how to do. They are similar to Samsung's PowerBot robotic vacuum cleaners, with pre-installed programs to carry out their daily tasks. That's exactly what I did for the next few weeks. Oh, I told myself I wouldn't tolerate his nonsense. I lie awake at night and think about how I could kill her and her lover without going to jail. I began to develop a very sophisticated surveillance plan to gather more evidence of his treacherous treachery. Then I asked myself, why the hell do I need more evidence? So I focused on devising detailed and elaborate plans to throw away my money and disappear into a tropical paradise, surrounded by young, scantily clad local women who would satisfy my every need and fantasy. But I didn't really do anything. Well, almost nothing. I made sure I no longer came home early from work. It's time to go to work. I did it. During dinner, I ate. As usual, I mow the lawn every Saturday morning. When it was time for bed, I went to bed. Yes, in bed next to my wife. Of course, I swore to myself that I would never sleep with that cheating bitch again. This commitment to myself lasted 3 nights. Now comes the really weird part. My wife never talked about her blood pressure again, Jack. This terrible day was like a mirage. We went from having sex 3 or 4 times a week to having sex 5 or 6 times a week. It becomes more sporty and varied. Their dinners became even more exotic and delicious. She respects me more than ever before in our marriage. Audrey was always a good mother, but she became an amazing one. He thought only of Stepford's wife. Oh, and I'm sure she was still fucking Big Jack because on that fateful day I heard her calling him several times. I just never saw any evidence, not even the slightest hint, that it was her. Eventually, I got used to his different life, which was undoubtedly his strategy. On the other hand, my life has never been better. I admit I have almost completely moved on from his betrayal, and am glad to hide my head in the sand, so to speak. At least until the kids turn 18. And this woman destroyed my broken house of cards and the fantastic world that I imagined. She invited her boyfriend to our annual barbecue. My annual barbecue. This brings us to today. I still can't believe my wife had the courage to invite her partner, his wife, and their kids to our annual summer barbecue. But I finally have a real plan. It took me time and money to put everything together, but I finished it that same day. I walked to the door, grabbed a lock of Audrey's hair, and opened the door. And sure enough, that bastard stood there with a smile on his face that no one could mistake for anything else. Before she could say a word, her two children, Jesse and Jessica, walked past us, already in their swimsuits. They told the parents that they were going back to the pool with our children, Katie and Caleb. They quickly greeted me and my wife and left. Audrey and Eddie blew kisses on both cheeks while I stood there and looked at Jack's fake smile. "Oh, Audrey, thank you for having us again. We love your parties." I briefly wondered why this idiot wanted to fuck my wife when I was married to this heartless fox. After a few drinks, my wife was approaching a 7 on a scale of 10, and Eddie was approaching a 10, the highest score a double alcoholic mother can achieve. I hugged her tightly. I must have hugged her too tightly and too long because when I finally let her go, she gave me an interesting, questioning look. The bastard silently extended his hand. He could not hide his joy at the shame and humiliation he had caused me. We were both still standing in the doorway when I reached into my pocket and pulled out a USB drive and a wad of coins. I handed the flash drive to Eddie and rolled the coins in my palm. "Thank you, Andrew. What is this?" She looked at him curiously. "This is my explanation for why I do this." I gritted my teeth because I knew it would hurt. I stood up, and with all the strength I could muster, I punched Jack square in the condescending nose with my $10 fist. I had to do it because Jack was younger, stronger, taller, healthier, and 30 pounds heavier than me. Aren't all womanizers like that? If not, then what's the point? I mean, why would a woman choose a lover as old, tender, and pathetic as her husband? Either way, I wanted to make sure he fell. Then he collapsed. Jack's nose exploded, spewing blood, mucus, and noise everywhere. There are also bedrooms. The bedrooms were scattered in all directions. They ran away, jumping over the tiles and making a loud noise. My hand didn't actually explode, but it felt like it did. Pain shot through my shoulder, but I had never felt so good in my life. The humiliations of the past few weeks disappeared in the blink of an eye. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I think I felt the need to survive that soldiers talk about after a battle, because they were lucky enough to survive. I have no doubt that Jack would probably kill me in a fair fight, but a bastard who fucks someone else's wife doesn't deserve a fair fight. He deserves this and more. Hopefully, and more, will cause his wife to divorce him because of his infidelity. She and her children deserve better. Now that I think about it, my kids and I feel the same way. Time seemed to flow in slow motion. Addie cried uncontrollably, but her beautiful dark brown barrel-sized eyes remained frozen. As Audrey knelt down to comfort her semi-conscious lover, I noticed a crowd had gathered. The rumor must have spread quickly as our room quickly filled with partygoers. Some of them threw water on Audrey's new Berber carpet because they had just jumped out of the pool to see what was going on. "Andre!" Eddie shouted, looking at me incredulously. "You are crazy? Why the hell did you do that?" She pointed to her screaming pigman lying on the ground next to her. She asked me to understand what happened. "Because Eddie has been fucking my wife for 6 weeks now." There was a loud crash. The Italian tiled floor shook slightly, and my wife fell on it and lost consciousness. Oh, that would leave a mark. Even though Addie was in shock, steam started coming out of her ears. I found it interesting that she did not doubt the truth of what I had just told her. One day I'll have to talk to him about this. "Everything is on a USB drive. There are photos, videos, and audio," I continued, pointing to the small green plastic memory card I still held in my hand. Fortunately, we had a large hall, because everyone came to see the performance except small children. Young children see little beyond what their own world has to offer. They then continue swimming and touching each other. Jack and Audrey woke up. He was a little worried because the flow of blood from his nose didn't seem to be slowing down at all. It could have just been blood spreading quickly and beautifully across the hard floor, but there was still a lot of blood. My wife was crying. "How could you do this to me? I told you it's okay. It will all be over soon and no one will know." "Because I, dear lady, only want you to feel a little of the humiliation that I feel and that no one else knows about." I turned to the audience, shocked and groaning. I raised my hands to silence the assembled crowd. I'm very sorry for all this fuss. I pointed to the bloody floor where Jack and Audrey stood. No need to panic. I want everyone to come out and enjoy the party. But let me ask you a question. I noticed that Audrey's mouth was open. How many of you know or at least suspect that my wife and Big Jack are having an affair here and this has become a topic of conversation? The suddenly shy partygoers glanced at each other furtively and slowly raised their hands. Security is high, and as guests became aware of the situation, more people began to raise their hands. It's clear. It seems like more than half of you have something on your mind. Thanks for your help. Please return to the party now. This will be our last party, so I really hope you come and get better soon. At that moment, Eddie punched Audrey in the face in shock, with almost the same result as when I punched Jax. When he hit the ground a second time, the others frowned and let out a collective ouch. But this time he sat down. Audrey held her nose and threw her head back, desperately holding back the flowing blood, and continued to cry. Addie leaned over and tried to help her confused husband up. He spoke with suppressed anger that was a little confusing. Listen to me, Jack. Get out and go to the emergency room. From now on, I don't care where you go as long as it's not your home. We go there with the children. Stay and enjoy the rest of the game. Also, once my ex's best friend stops crying and bleeding, she and I will talk a little. But, I have to go. You broke my nose. Nobody cares, Audrey. Your nose is so big, I could make it better on your big face. Come with me and we can talk in private. She grabbed my wife's hair and pulled it. The back of the house is caveman style. Audrey continued to flail her arms, screaming and crying. I'm sure Eddie had to work hard to get there, but to be honest, the floor was covered in blood and stuff, and it was very slippery, very slippery. I even laughed when I saw Audrey walking by with coins stuck to her face. I know I'm a terrible person. Okay, Eddie's snide comment about Audrey's face at the end was probably unfair. My wife's nose sticks out a little, but her face is not fat. I like his nose. It looks a bit like Jennifer Grey's beak. I've always been interested in children. However, I'm pretty sure that after Audrey was beaten, his beard changed forever too. What a shame, it's very sad. It's your problem. Plus, judging by the look on Eddie's face, Audrey would probably be even more upset by the end of the evening. I've always liked Addie, but my admiration for her has peaked. Unlike me, when faced with a shocking situation, she does her job like a boss. His quick and decisive actions and statements seem to impress everyone. The crowd then began to head out to the patio to buy hamburgers and dogs. I even heard old Mrs. Johnson say it as she led her husband out. I told you it was going to be a great party, Jack. Let's have a margarita. I'm really sorry. Honestly, I'm a little worried about Audrey's safety in Eddie's arms, but the grill needs to be protected. People are hungry. I chose grilling as my main priority. I continued to inspect the house, but when I heard no furniture, no broken dishes, no cries of pain inside, I continued working as a grill master. Well, I don't want to brag, but people always tell me that I make the best burgers in town. The main thing is to use real firewood or coal if necessary, but never gas. Just dinks. Define Hurry Nitrogen Kid card with gas. Because if you use gas, a real child will not eat anything cooked with gas. Anyway, another secret ingredient of mine, hemp. Okay, just kidding. In fact, it is a special mixture of different spices, 3 different grated cheeses, and Worcestershire sauce. The meat must, of course, be fresh, never frozen. Ground beef, 80/20. Usually when I'm grilling, all the guys come up to me. They always try to get me to reveal the secret combination of ingredients. I never posted this because it wasn't supposed to be a secret ingredient, was it? But today, not a single child came to me. No one. Not even a child's game. For her, which got me thinking, why is this happening? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. My kids have already had a DNA test done, so who cares? But most of their wives have come to me at some point and sympathized with my problems. They asked if there was anything they could do to help and what the mothers did. I think it's genetic for them. 2 of them made sure that I had their mobile phone numbers, just in case. At one point, Eddie approached me with deliberate arrogance, leading Jesse and Jessica with him. I have to be honest, I'm a little scared. I mean, after she hit Audrey with a right cross, even though I was just a messenger, did I really ruin her world? So, just in case, I took a few steps back. I have nothing to worry about. She hugged me and hugged me tightly. If I weren't a man, it might have been inappropriate to hug me at a barbecue. She squeezed me hard and I felt both nipples on my chest. she said disgustedly when she finally let me go. Sorry for running off after lunch, Andrew, but it looks like my idiot husband won't even be able to get to the hospital without my help. He shook his head in disgust. You should get used to doing everything yourself. Then I thought about Audrey. I looked over Eddie's shoulder at the house again. Oh, you didn't kill her, did you, Addie? I heard his children laugh at this question. I looked at her. They occupied every newly cleaned room. No, Andrew. I didn't even touch it again. I simply explained the facts of life and what I was going to do next. Everything is fine. I was wondering what happens next meant, but decided to let it slide. The trio ran out of the yard to greet the Lyft driver. I want to know what Eddie said to my ex-wife. On that day, I will have to be sure and ask him. About 20 minutes later, while I was clearing trash from the fence, I saw my wife timidly walking towards me, while everyone else was still hiding their faces. There were no obvious new injuries on his body, but he had 2 black eyes, somewhat similar to the eyes of a raccoon. I think the situation is bound to get worse in the coming days. His nose was swollen to twice its normal size. Even the bloody toilet paper stuck in her nostrils and the makeup running down her cheeks did nothing to improve her appearance. I've never been so humiliated in my life, he snorted. I'm really sorry, honey, but in my defense, it won't last long. If I had known it bothered you so much, I would have given up. How could you embarrass me so much? In our direction. Perhaps they want to see more fireworks. Yes, you can, I interrupted meaningfully, continuing to desperately scratch the bars. Are you Audrey Smith? Asked the somewhat angelic young woman in her 20s, who had been stalking our wife. And you've been served. Audrey then handed over the ubiquitous 8.5 x 11-inch manila envelope. There was another loud noise, and Audrey fell to the ground again. Fortunately, this time he collapsed on the grass. I'm pretty sure I heard someone yell, "Ooh, 3!" It was me? Thanks for the hamburger, Mr. Smith. The handsome, chubby lawyer happily walked out the door. I felt like the king of the world standing there, Brookstone paddle in hand, hat tilted at just the right angle, and the thick Los Angeles Dodgers grill coat they gave me for free. I puffed out my chest with pride and majestically surveyed my kingdom. Man, yes.